Okay, fantastic. I think we'll be okay to start then. Again, thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to join us today for this webinar slash lunch and learn that we are hosting for you. My name is Barbara Orth. I am a Senior Membership and Professional Standards Executive here at CIWEM, and I will be hosting today's webinar. Now, before we kick off, I would like to issue yet again an apology for having to cancel yesterday's webinar, which would have focused on membership, our pre-chartership grades. Unfortunately, technology isn't always as reliable as we would like it to be. I know quite a few of you have registered to attend that webinar in addition to this one, but rest assured we will be rescheduling that webinar, and everyone should get an automatic email from us when we have done so. So yeah, do keep an eye on your inbox for that information. Just to give you an idea of today's format in terms of how things are going to look in for the next hour or so. Obviously, as the title already says, today's webinar will be focusing on our chartered membership grade as well as fellowship. Now, we will be covering a broad spectrum of topics to do with chartership and fellowship, but hopefully it will be broad enough, you know, for there to be something for everybody. And we will also go into the nitty-gritty of it a little bit later. So, you know, hopefully, you know, whether you're at a point in your career, whether you're looking to apply for chartership at the moment, or whether, you know, this is something that you're planning at some point in the future, hopefully, you know, there'll be something useful and helpful for you in this webinar. So we will kick off first with an introduction to the chartership membership grade and the fellow membership grade. And this will focus on kind of the process, the requirements, and everything you need to know about the actual, you know, requirements of applying for these membership grades. Following that, we will have a kind of debunking myths session with my colleague Sidonia Cheeky, who will kind of focus on top tips when applying for chartership. So, you know, stuff that might not be available, you know, on the website, or stuff that is useful to know. So really just focusing on our experience of having looked at applications in the past, and, you know, just to help you get a foot through the door, as it were, with the application. And then in the end, I would like to open the floor to any questions from the audience. Please do send in loads of questions. We love to see lots of Q&A activity. Now you can do this by dropping us a message in the Q&A section, or you can message me privately, whichever you prefer. We will read out the questions and we will answer them live rather than in writing. So yeah, if you'd like to prepare your questions while the presentation is going on, that's also fine, but just be aware that, you know, we won't be replying to them until the end of the webinar. A small disclaimer, we will be covering a lot of ground today. There's a lot of information that goes into applying for chartership and fellowship, but this webinar is being recorded, so if you feel like you've missed anything, it will be put on the website, so you can always revisit it, and we have loads of information available on our website as well under the membership tab. So if you feel like you've missed anything, or perhaps we haven't had the chance to answer your question, then you can always revert back to that. We have a few more fantastic webinars that we've recorded in the past, which we also welcome you to look at under the membership tab of our website. So yeah, everything that is covered today is also available in the website. So yeah, the information is available. Okay, so without further ado then, shall we jump straight into it? So first of all, for those of you who perhaps don't know who we are, so as it says already, we are CIWEM, which stands for the Chartered Institution for Water and Environmental Management. We were granted our Royal Charter in 1995, and we represent a huge community of chartered water and environmental managers, as well as scientists, engineers, who are globally recognized for their professional expertise and conduct. We have members in over 90 countries of the world, so quite a huge community there, which is very exciting for everyone to join. And our mission is to work towards a safer and more sustainable world, really. So we would like to build a global community of water and environmental professionals who are dedicated to working for the public benefit. If you're completely new to CIWEM, we offer a wide range of membership grades and qualifications, which really aim to add value and recognition to your achievements. The membership team, which is myself included, we will help you progress your career, and beyond. So whether that's through qualifications or standards or networking or career enhancement, we offer a wide range of possibilities for you to engage with. Okay, so diving straight into it then. As it says, we'll be focusing on chartered membership and beyond. Really, what is chartership? So chartership is a globally recognized qualification that has real status. So it is an achievement that you can genuinely be proud of, because it makes a very clear statement about your professional identity and the nature of your experience. It also opens up career opportunities. And also, it's because it goes through like a peer review process, it provides assurance to others of your exceptional competence. Now, the CIWEM, which is the Chartered Water and Environmental Management membership grade, is bespoke to those who have chosen a career path in the environment and water sector, and it recognizes the specialist skills that you have attained. And this provides assurance by employers, clients, peers, and the public that you will provide the highest of professional quality standards. So that is a little bit about what a chartered membership means in CIWEM terms. Now, who is eligible to apply? So in order to be eligible for chartered membership, the most important thing is to hold at least 5 years of industry experience. Now, while this is not a hard and fast rule, because of the application requirements, which will require you to demonstrate certain elements of project management skills, professionals with less than 5 years experience will typically not be able to meet those requirements. In addition to the minimum 5 years experience, you will also need to have an honours degree or equivalent, depending on where you have obtained your degree. And depending on whether you are looking to apply for any additional registrations, which we will touch on a little bit later, you might also need a master's degree. Now, having the bachelor's degree with honours is not necessarily compulsory if you do have sufficient experience. And this is where our work-based learning route comes into play, which provides a means of enabling really experienced applicants who perhaps don't have the exemplifying academic qualifications to demonstrate the knowledge and understanding which they have acquired through their working experience. So really, those are the two minimum requirements. Is the most important one is the 5 years of industry experience, and then an honours degree if you have it, and if you don't have an honours degree, then you will need to go through the work-based learning route. And now going into a bit more detail in terms of what we require from each chartered member application. I can see that someone has raised their hand. At this point in the presentation, we won't be taking any questions. So if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat, and we will be able to pick those up a little bit later. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the application requirements, it might look a little bit scary, at first glance, but if you take it sort of step by step, then it's really not as complicated as it might seem. So first of all, what we require people to do is to complete an online application form. This is perhaps a little bit misleading. So what we mean by online application form is that you will need to create an online account, and there you'll have various tabs where you can upload your sponsor letters, complete your, upload CV. So that is what we mean by an online application form. You will also need a copy of your most up-to-date CV. This really, it can be, any CV that you want. Preferably, it should be a professional CV. So things like hobbies, I wouldn't necessarily focus on, because really what the assessors are looking at is you to demonstrate your career history essentially. Then a next very important element of your application is to have 2 chartered sponsors. Now we do require that one of your sponsors holds chartership through CIWEM, and this is simply because they are able to guide you through the process, and they'll be able to help you simply because they themselves have gone through the process and they will have the know-how of what kind of we require and what we expect. They will also need to review our application and provide signed letters confirming that they have done so. You will also need to provide us with a 1,000-word career overview report. This is essentially a narrative of your career history. So what we always tell applicants here is that we wouldn't really worry about personal details, because you only have 1,000 words to work with, so it's not really that much. But yeah, so just focus on your career and your achievements to date. So essentially highlighting why you feel you'd be eligible to apply for chartership. Then we also require you to submit a CPD record for the last 3 years. Now CPD, love it or hate it, it can be a bit scary. It might not be. But it's especially in over the last year and a half, given the current climate, it's been so easy to keep track of your CPD. Everything is online now. So even watching a webinar, for example, today's webinar, also counts for 1 hour of your CPD. So we require 90 hours of CPD over a 3-year rolling period. So that means that you don't have to have 30 hours in 1 year. You can have 20 and then kind of like spread it across a 3-year period. The most important aspect or element of your application, if you will, because this really will be the bulk of your application, is the 4,000-word mandatory competence attainment report. I will go into a little bit more detail about this shortly, because it really is the key element against which our assessors will be able to assess your application. And then for our work-based learning applicants who, as I've mentioned, might not have the exemplifying academic qualifications, in addition to all of these, you will need to fill in a CIWEM work-based learning statement form. This is available for download on our website. It matches the 4,000-word mandatory competence attainment report, so it kind of follows in parallel, but the aim of it is for you to demonstrate degree level learning. And essentially, this is what your application should comprise of. You can upload this online and then submit it when you're ready. So, as I've mentioned, the mandatory competencies, they're kind of the boogeyman of the chartership application. It comprises of 14 mandatory competencies, which are divided into 5 separate categories, which I've listed here. Now, unfortunately, because of time constraints, we won't be able to go into a lot of detail about these mandatory competencies. However, we do have a webinar series on our website which focuses only on the mandatory competencies. So there's a 1-hour session per section. So if you'd like to hear more detail about that, then please do visit those webinars. In addition to which, we also offer a fast track to chartership course. After the presentation, I'll pop the link to that into the chat, where you'll be able to get kind of one-on-one tutoring on your mandatory competencies. So if that is something that you're interested in, then please do look into it. But just to quickly go back to the competencies. So as you see, we have 5 sections of competencies, if you will, with the A competencies focusing on existing and emerging factors influencing environmental and water issues. So this is really aimed at testing your knowledge of wider environmental issues and trends, as well as your ability to develop strategic plans or to address changes in your sector. Now, the B competencies, they focus on your ability to evaluate and analyze environmental or water problems. It's around problem solving, as well as identifying, developing and evaluating options. Again, it also touches on your ability to initiate and manage change, as well as plan and implement solutions, as well as monitoring their continuing performance. The C competencies, it's all about, the C competencies are mostly about health and safety, so safe and effective working practices. But also into this falls the management, the efficient management of resources, the promotion and application of health and safety, your contribution to sustainability, as well as your understanding and promotion of quality enhancement and quality assurance. The D competencies focus on communication and professional ethics. So there's a competency here where you need to demonstrate your ability to communicate in English, as well as, detailing how you work professionally, ethically, and how you comply with relevant codes of conduct. And finally, the E competencies focus on professional development. This is where your CPD comes in, which you are more than welcome to detail a bit further as part of this competency. And there's a final competency which kind of asks you to detail your commitment to CIWEM. So these are the 14 competencies that kind of form the core element of your chartership application. As I've mentioned, there are guidance documents available for download from our website. So there is a lot more information out there for you to access. So at CIWEM, we also offer a wide range of external registrations. This essentially means that these institutions have licensed us to offer their external registrations on behalf of them as part of a chartership application or as part of a membership application in different cases. So you'll see we have the Engineering Council external registrations, which is engineering technician, incorporated engineer, and chartered engineer. Then we have our Society for the Environment external registrations, which is our chartered environmental practitioner, which is something that we've recently received a license for, so that is very exciting, as well as the more usual chartered environmentalist external registration. And with the Science Council, we are licensed to offer the chartered scientist registration. Now, again, because of time constraints, I won't be able to go into a lot of detail about, about these registrations individually. However, I think it's enough to say that if you're looking to apply for chartered membership, so chartered water and environmental manager, you can also submit an application for any of these additional registrations at the same time. And really, there are no additional requirements when you apply at the same time. The most important thing to note here is that each additional registration comes with its own set of mandatory competencies, which you will also need to complete. Guidance documents, again, available for download from the website. One important thing to note here is that if you are looking to apply for any of these external registrations along with your chartered membership, you will need a sponsor who holds the external registration that you are looking to apply for. So that is the only difference. Requirement, as it were, for if you're applying for chartered membership as well. If you are already a chartered member and are looking to apply for any of these external registrations, then for all intents and purposes, it's like sending in a brand new application. So you will still need to submit a CV, career overview report, etc. So we always advise, if you are considering, any external registrations, we always advise candidates to apply for both at the same time, because it's just simply more time and cost effective. And again, what I should mention is that you can't hold any of the external registrations without holding chartered membership or a CIWEM membership grade. So the external registration depends really on you also obtaining chartered membership, so chartered water and environmental management. And finally, moving on from the chartered membership, our highest grade of membership, which is our fellow membership. This is really sort of the highest level of membership that you can obtain. This is really for those very senior and experienced individuals in the water and environmental management sector. This might not be something that you're considering at the moment, but just in case you're planning for it in the future, there are 4 ways to apply for fellowship. There are 2 direct entry routes to fellowship. This is for people who are completely new to CIWEM. So we have a direct entry C.WEM F CIWEM. This is for applicants who would like to also apply for Chartered Water and Environmental Manager in addition to fellow membership. Then we have a second direct entry, which is just straight fellow membership without the Chartered Water and Environmental Manager. Then we have a transfer to fellow route, and we have a nominated fellow route. The requirements are listed on the website. What is important here to know, if you're new to CIWEM, then you will need to follow the direct entry route to fellowship. If you're already a chartered member of CIWEM, then you can transfer from chartered membership to fellow. And finally, the nominated fellow is a very bespoke route towards fellowship. It's for very, very senior individuals in the water and environmental management sector who might not necessarily be affiliated with CIWEM, but who nevertheless have achieved, professional excellence, and therefore warrant a fellowship nomination to the institution. Again, there's a webinar that focuses simply on applying for fellowship, which is also available on the website. So do make sure to check it out if this is something that you're considering. Obviously, it has the opportunity to go into a lot more detail than we do at the moment. Okay, there we go. I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. At this point, please do feel free to think about any questions that you may have. I see that there are already a couple of questions in the Q&A section. I think what we'll do right now is I can bring in my colleague Sidonia to talk us through any membership application top tips that she has. Hi, Sidonia. Thank you so much for joining us. Sidonia is our membership and professional standards manager, and she also manages the chartership applications as well as the professional interview process. So she'll be able to give us lots of insight into how the process works. I think she might be frozen at the moment. It's just tricky internet, isn't it? I think we can't really rely on it to always work. So while we wait for Sidonia to come back, I think I'll just kick off the conversation by sort of talking about, what the first step in the application process. So imagine if you're ready to apply for chartership, you're here, you're looking to apply. What is the first thing that you need to do? Well, really, it's to open an account. So open an account with us, and where you'll be able to upload all the required documents. What we usually require applicants to think about is kind of, if you think about the requirements, then think about them in a filter. So I would recommend starting with a CV, because that's something that most of us already have. So not a lot of thought needs to go into that. In the meantime, I'm just going to block out the sun so I can see. So yeah, a CV is something we already have. So that should be pretty straightforward. Oh, Sid?
Yes, sorry everybody.
No,
yes, I'm back. Unfortunately, working from home and internet connections now it's not a trusted thing. I'm sorry for the slightly delay. Okay,
that's absolutely fine. So what we started talking about really is, if someone is looking to apply for chartership and they're ready, what is really the first step that people should be thinking about?
Well, what I would advise everybody to check our guidance, to watch all the webinars as you do now, and just make sure that you understood the process and you know what is expected from you. When you have any questions, it's really good to ask them. also the next step would be probably to find a mentor or sponsor and somebody who's already chartered, because they can actually help you to focus on the weaknesses you might have. And also they could advise you on if you are already ready actually to apply for. So probably this would be my first advice.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of just pulling together the documents and everything that is necessary for an application, I was saying that perhaps the first thing to do obviously is to open an account, but then what's the kind of the next step is thinking about the CPD and then further from that.
So yes, obviously it's a good practice if you are already a member by the point you become a member, let's say M7 graduate, to collect your CPD. Obviously, when you get there and you have to collect 3 years worth of CPD, can be really daunting and would take like probably months and months. So if you are, let's say you have 2-3 years of experience and you are thinking to become chartered, the best would be to start to collect your CPD. We have quite detailed guidance on what is the requirement, what is considered CPD, basically everything which is helping you to develop your profession. Even like articles, technical journals, whatever is helping actually your day-to-day work and is developing your knowledge is considered CPD, as this webinar today as well.
Fantastic. And then just maybe a few tips on the mandatory competencies. As I've said it numerous times before, people are probably sick of hearing it. You know, that is the most important element of your application. So any kind of top tips around the mandatory competencies, kind of what to do, what not to do. So yeah.
Yes, so my first tip probably would be to work out if you're already ready. Obviously, if you read the guidance, you will have an understanding of if you're able to demonstrate the competencies. It would be really good if you consult your sponsors, mentors, to actually advise you if you have that knowledge to be able to demonstrate the competencies. Obviously, it would be a good practice to find colleagues who are doing this process and just speak with them, because it's always helpful if you have buddies who can help you and you can share knowledge. Equally, we have a fast track to Chartership workshop, which might be a help on finding the best examples. So this would be my first tip. The second tip would be to identify more than, so obviously Barbara mentioned that you need at least 2 examples for each competency. So my advice would be to find a few more examples and ask your mentors to identify the best of them. If you're applying for multiple registrations, be really careful to not use the same examples across registrations. Never copy paste, even if it's a simple health and safety question, just reword it, use some other examples as the assessors will not be happy to read a copy pasted question answer, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, all fantastic tips. Okay, so in terms of what happens next, so say someone has submitted their application, their written submission, everything looks in order. What's kind of the next step of the process?
So obviously after you submitted your application, we have deadlines. So that's basically another tip which I would advise, that when you think that you are ready, you have an idea what examples you will use, and you have already a mentor and you have a structure in your mind for the application, you should set up a target for you. All the application dates are on the website, and it's detailing basically in briefly the process of, we have an application deadline, then after each of the deadline, we send the applications for assessment. Usually the process from submitting an application to find the outcome of your written assessment is like a month. This depends also how close to the deadline you submit your application, obviously. After the application is submitted, we will send for assessment. And at the next professional standard committee, all the outcomes will be ratified. And it's coming the second step of the application, the interviews, the professional review interviews, which most people get really scared and stressed about it, but it's not that bad. So I have a few tips for the interview process, and basically I will have a briefing of how the interview is structured, and hopefully this will help you to prepare better for the future interviews.
Fantastic. Shall we dig into the interview tips then?
So basically the structure of the interview is has like three basic structures. First, obviously, is the introduction. So after you, one more thing, currently we do remote interviews, as it seems that this works best, not just the pandemic, but for going further, it's more sustainable and it's more accessible for our members. However, if it's requested, we have certain dates when we organize face-to-face interviews from now on. Hopefully the government will be in support for that as well. So on remote interviews and face-to-face interviews as well, the first part is the introduction. The panelists, the interviewers, usually are 3 of them in an interview. They introduce themselves briefly, and then the floor is for the interviewees. They have to give a short career overview report. After the career overview report, usually the panelists are asking a few questions about the career overview report, and then the most important part, one of the most important part of the interview is coming, the presentation. So the presentation is a 10-minute presentation, is a technical project, which usually is a project which you used in your mandatory competencies, but not necessarily. After the presentation, the interviewers will ask you a few questions about it, and then they will start to ask questions about the mandatory competencies. And at the end, basically, they will ask you if you have any questions. This is briefly the structure. However, I have a few tips which might help you to elaborate on them.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, just a second. So one of the important keys are that you should not prepare for the interviews like a job interview. The professional interview is not a job interview. You are not assessed against other people, and it's not about who would be the best for the role. Basically, it's about that you are assessed against CIWEM standards, mainly the mandatory competencies. So the best tip is to read all the competencies you sent previously, as you will be prompted with questions about those as well. The interview is not a stressful environment, so you should use it as a normal day-to-day talk about your experience. And the interviewers usually are there to help you to elaborate on your career and or your mandatory competency answers. So you should take it as a relaxed conversation about yourself, what you achieved, how you get to that level of experience, and why you think that this is important for you. Also, it's a good tip to practice before. It may sound silly to just practice in the mirror. Also, you could do a mock interview with a colleague who went through the process. Obviously, you are not able to prepare for all the questions you might be asked, as this is an open question interview. So maybe the interviewers will find a topic which is nowadays emerging, any environmental issues or something, and you will be asked about it, your personal opinion, not really like on a technical field. So we are not able to prepare you for all the questions. However, it would be really helpful maybe to have a mock interview to just structure your career overview report in your head and all the possible questions you might be asked. About the career overview report, you should have a neat presentation. You should focus on what you learned and all your roles and how you get to that point on your career when you applied. You should not go in more details. Usually this part is like 5 minutes. So if you would be able to brief all your experience, but yet in depth, in some ways would be the most appreciated by the interviewing panel. Obviously,
sorry, can I quickly jump in here, just because it relates to what you've just mentioned in terms of like another tip. You said that we can't always say what kind of questions the interviewers will ask. The questions usually are always based on your written submission. So, more or less, they're based on your written submission. So anything you put in your written submission is fair game, essentially. So if you're not comfortable to talk about something at interview, then don't write about it in your written submission.
Yes, I have something like that later on as well.
Sorry.
No, don't worry. So after the first part of the interview is basically introduction and career overview report, and they will prompt you about questions about what you include in your CV and your career overview report. The next part will be the project presentation. So for this part, you should pick a project which was your favorite one, and a project which you really enjoyed, as it will be much more easier to speak about something which you enjoyed and basically help you to demonstrate the competencies. We ask for a PowerPoint presentation, but this doesn't mean that you should include a lot of text to it. So it's better if you prepare a presentation which is neat and has a few focus points and some really clear pictures included than to have a lot of backgrounding information. Also, test yourself before. It's a 10-minute presentation. The interviewers will prompt you 2 minutes before, and they will stop you around 10 minutes. Obviously, if this is your last slide and you have a few more sentences, they will let you finish. However, you should check to make sure that it's 10 minutes and not more. As said, Barbara, basically, you should expect to have questions about the competencies. So if you have weaknesses or areas which you are not sure, even if you include it already in your answers in the mental competencies, you should think about how you would elaborate on them and prepare yourself to be asked on those as well. So I think these are the most of my tips, shortly.
Fantastic. Okay, and just to round off the top application tips, really. So what happens in short after the professional interview?
Yes, I forgot one more top tip. So basically, after the interviewers ask all the questions about your presentation, your career, the mental competencies, you have also the option to ask them, and you will be advised equally what is the next steps. So after an interview, you should hear in 2 weeks' time an informal outcome, and then after every professional standard committee, the outcomes will be ratified and you will hear the outcome. If it's a successful one, you will have the welcoming pack. If it's not a successful one, that doesn't mean that you are rejected. It just means that probably you need some more time to prepare, and you will receive also a detailed feedback letter on areas which you should improve your knowledge and your professional experience. So in case of an successful interview, you should not stop. You should ask advice from your mentors. You should use the feedback letter to prepare for the next steps.
I think that is a very, very important message to get across, because quite a lot of people are disheartened after, an unsuccessful, which is absolutely normal after an unsuccessful interview. But it's just not the fact that we are rejecting you. It's just more the fact that you may require a little bit more experience. And this also applies. So potentially after a written submission, you may be asked to resubmit some of your weaker competencies. Again, this is not to highlight any shortcomings, but it's really just to give you the best possible chance at interview, because we would rather you resubmit at the written submission stage than potentially be unsuccessful at interview and then having to start the whole process from scratch.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, so I think maybe we can take a few audience questions now. There are a few in the chat here. So if I read them out to you, Sid, are you happy to answer some of them, and then maybe we can talk about them?
Of course.
Okay, so the first one is there any desired format for the sponsor letter?
So yes, we have some guidance available on the website as well. So the most important part is in the sponsorship letter to be on headed paper, and also to include information such as to make sure that your sponsors read your application. So many applicants think that this is just a daunting admin task to have a sponsor letter. No, the sponsors are there to help you with the application. So we don't need just a sentence saying that, yes, I read the application. Please ask your sponsors to help you with every example you use, and ask advice, because this is why we request that letter, not just it's an admin task. So your sponsors have to read the whole application from the first sentence to the last sentence. If you are unclear on certain parts of the application, the sponsor should be the first point of contact, unless it's some like technical part. Obviously, when you submit, the sponsor should be your first point of contact to help you with. Okay.
Oh, and there's another.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
The one important, I think Barbara mentioned that if you're applying for external registrations, your sponsor has to have the same registrations as you. So it's much appreciated if in the sponsorship letter is also included the registrations your sponsor has. We will check it anyways, but it's good that if you are aware that the sponsor has to have the same registrations as you are applying. Mm-hmm. And you check that they're active actually.
So yeah, so essentially we have a template, a sponsor letter template available for download, which kind of details all the information that needs to be included in a sponsor letter. I think, as Sidonia has already said, the main thing is please don't include just one sentence of yes, I have reviewed the application and I endorse the content. We are really looking for a little bit, a few more details. There's also a question here that relates to sponsor letters, and it reads, do sponsors have to be colleagues?
Yes, they can be colleagues, they can be your university teacher, as long as you have a professional relationship with them and they know you professionally, at least for a couple of years, obviously, then it would be totally fine if they are your sponsors. So yes, a colleague who already went through the process probably is the best option to use for sponsors.
Also, I think it's worth mentioning here while we're talking about sponsor letters, if you don't know any sponsors who are chartered members of CIWEM, we do have an online mentor platform that you can sign on to, and that is really, it gives you the means to get in touch directly with sponsors, removing the middleman essentially, which is us. So if you get in touch with a mentor or a sponsor on the platform, then you'll be able to develop a professional relationship. Yeah, and this is, I mean, obviously it would be better for you to have a sponsor who knows you professionally, but if you're really struggling for a CIWEM sponsor, then the mentor platform is a great means of finding and contacting sponsors.
Yes, one more tip there. Unfortunately, we are not able to provide you with lists. So if you contact us and ask about who is chartered at your company, we are not able to help with that due to GDPR. However, most probably your HR department would be able to help you. And probably if you drop an email to your colleagues, if somebody knows a chartered member, that would be good as well. So first, look into your company and your professional network, and then it would be a good idea, the mentor platform. Also, you have to be at least an environmental partner member in order to have access to the mentor platform, which is a quite easy process. So it's just a 5-minute application.
Yes. Just a quick one more question about sponsors, after which we'll move on to another topic, which is, I was wondering if university teachers would be suitable, considering I don't have a working professional relationship.
Yes. However, probably if you finish university like 10-20 years, it would be not the best. So it would be better if it's somebody who is in a relationship or knows what you do. It's closer to that. So if you finish university 5 years ago, probably it would be good if you don't have any other person in your professional network. But yeah, I don't know if I covered that.
Provided that they hold chartership.
Yes, so. Of course, yeah. That's a must.
Fantastic. Okay, so quickly just moving on to the next question. If I apply for CEng in addition to C.WEM, do I need to submit a separate career report and CPD, or can they submit it once for both applications?
No, so basically how the application portal looks like, you have to add all the parts, so the CV, CPD, and so on. And at the mandatory competency tab, you will have for each registration a separate part. So on the application, you can, if you complete for each registration, extra registration, the competencies, that's the requirement. You don't have to submit separately CPD and CV. However, if you decide to do separately, obviously, every submission you have to upload each requirement.
Fantastic. Just picking up another external registration question while we're on the topic. If you apply for C.WEM and CEng at the same time, and if you are rejected for CEng but pass the requirements for CWEM, Will your application be fully rejected, or will you be awarded the C.WEM award but not the CEng?
Good question. So in order to be awarded external registration, you have to be C.WEM. So if at the assessment stage, you will be asked to resubmit the CEng part, you have two options, probably more, but two for sure. So first, if you decide to wait a little bit for the CEng part, you can follow up the C.WEM application, so you can attend a professional review interview, and in case of it will be successful, you'll be awarded C.WEM. Many of our applicants, they prefer to wait till they will be accepted for CEng, and then they will be attending a professional review interview the same time for C.WEM and CEng. Obviously, at the interview stage, if you fail C.WEM, you will not be able to award CEng. However, if you just fail the external registrations, you will be still awarded for C.WEM.
Fantastic. I think that
also it is more cost effective to attend an interview for both than to separately for each other. So it's always better probably to wait to get the external registrations accepted, and then to have an interview for both, or three or four of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But essentially after interview, if you fail your external registration, but you pass for C.WEM, then you are awarded C.WEM. So after interview. Fantastic. Okay, just quickly moving on to the next question. I'm just very aware that we're slowly running out of time, and I want to be able to answer as many as possible. The next question reads, if you are, say, 3 years into your career, what would you say are the best steps you can be taking towards chartership so that when you have the required 5 years experience, you are ready?
So collecting CPD as soon as possible, to don't have to do it retrospectively, because that is quite daunting. Probably this would be my best top tip, and start to collect examples to demonstrate competencies, because obviously it's better if you use the last 3 years to pick up examples, but also if an example is not, project example is not later than 5 years, that should be fine. So start to collect CPD, start to collect examples for competencies, and basically work towards the chartership requirements.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Another question that kind of ties into this same topic. Do I have to be a registered member of CIWEM before I apply for chartership?
No, you can apply directly for chartership without having any prior memberships with us. However, obviously, if you have one, it will be probably helping just with the costs, as if somebody is already a member, they don't have to pay an application fee for every upgrade they do. They have to pay just once. So it's maybe cost effective if you are already a member previously, but otherwise it's not a requirement for chartership entry.
Fantastic. That's a really good question here, actually, is how is CPD evaluated, and how do we collect it?
So the best is if you collect it in the application wizard. So it's a tab where you can actually put every attended event, for example, you can actually put there, and you can complete every topic. How it's assessed. So we have trained assessors who will check it. As Barbara mentioned, you have to have 3 years rolling, and 90 hours rolling for 3 years. So if, for example, you had a career break or any kind of thing, that's totally fine. You can include 1 more extra year, and it should be fine. And the CPT is assessed by our trained assessors. Obviously, they will check how relevant that knowledge is for your job role in overall. I think that's it.
I think what is important to highlight about CPD is to kind of steer clear of just listing hours of activities. So it's very important when you do record your CPD to also detail how the CPD activity has benefited you and how you plan to apply it in the future. So just listing hours of CPD activity is not sufficient. If you look on the template and in the guidance documents, that you will see that there are certain tabs that you will also need to complete. And CPD is really all about, you know, detailing how you intend to use the learning that you have acquired and how you plan in the future to implement it, and also what CPD you potentially intend to undertake in the future as well. So CPD is all about future planning and how you use the learning that you have acquired. Wonderful. Oh, we have a question about the CV. Do we have any requirements for the CV in terms of format or length?
Well, we prefer PDF attachments, but this is an admin part thing, so you don't have to. The application wizard is accepting Word, PDF, and Excel stuff, but it's preferable if it's PDF. Also, you should try to avoid company CVs which are making you and they're advertising you for certain jobs. It's preferable if you upload a professional CV, a personal one. You should obviously make a neat CV with in chronological order, what your job roles and what you did. And I think that's it. So basically, as soon as it's a chronological order of your experience and is detailed, it should be fine. Do not include pictures, please, because obviously it's not helpful, and anyway, it will be redacted. Do not include any personal informations, and as Barbara mentioned, hobbies, because it's not relevant. So it should be your professional experience chronologically listed, any qualifications you had, and anything relevant to your career.
Yes, that was actually going to be my point as well. It's just, personal information like address, nationality, date of birth. We redact it anyway due to GDPR. So it's just, yeah, it's not necessary.
One more tip. Actually, do not include your membership number any part. If you're already a member, do not include your membership number any of the uploaded documents as we know it. We have it on hand, yes, and it will be redacted anyways, obviously.
Yeah. And something a question that goes kind of along the same vein. Is there any format for the career overview report?
We have some guidance on the website as well, so but not necessarily. It should be concentrating on the projects you did, how you achieved the professional knowledge you have, and so on. So we don't have a necessary format. The application wizard has a place where you should basically type in the career overview report. However, if you would like to upload it separately, it's a part called CV and other supporting documentation part. You can upload there if you have already a format, but you should include at least one sentence in the application part of the career report. Otherwise, the system will not recognize that actually you completed that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are the little quirks of the system. So each section, yes, each compulsory section will need to have a few words in it, even if you do upload the documents as separately. I think another useful thing that we've not actually touched on, Sid, is any fees and costs associated with applying for membership and chartership in particular.
Yes. So if you are brand new to CIWEM, you don't have any registrations previously, or if you are a student, because students are not paying fees. So if you start the application, after you submitted the application, you will be asked to pay an application fee, which is £155. If you are applying from a company who is a business partner, then it will be just £101, if I know right, or £100. You can, on our website, you can check if your company is a partner. However, if you complete correctly, the name of the company should come automatically at the end. After you pay the application fee and you submitted your application, you will have the outcome of the application. If it's a successful one, you will be invited for an interview.
Oh dear, have we lost Sid due to poor connection? It's okay. I'll just finish her train of thought. So essentially, where I think she left off is after you've submitted your application and your written submission has passed assessment, you will be invited for a professional interview. Now, professional interviews do cost money. They're £195 per interview. if you're applying for an external registration in addition to chartered membership, it's obviously you'll have both in one interview, so it's one interview fee. This is why we kind of advise people to apply for both at the same time, so to not leave external registrations for a later application, just because, you know, there'll be additional costs associated with a brand new application. So yes, we have the professional interview fee, which is £195. If you're successful in your interview, that's when you effectively become a member of CIWEM, so a chartered member of CIWEM, and with the additional registrations. Now, we have an annual membership subscription fee. This is available on the website. At the moment, this annual membership subscription fee for chartered membership is £295. For fellows, it's £305. And then depending on any additional registrations, there are associated costs with that, which are not set by us, unfortunately. It's essentially what the Engineering Council, the Society for the Environment, and the Science Council charge for each external registration. And Sidonia is back. Sid, I think I kind of covered essentially the cost in your absence, so I kind of finished that idea.
Thank you for that. Apologies.
It's okay. No, it's not a problem. In any case, I think just looking at the time, it's nearly on the hour, so I think we potentially have to draw this session to a close, unless Sid, do you have any final extra tips for applicants?
I think I'm fine. Obviously, I would advise everybody to check our webpage to the other webinars we recorded previously. They're available. If you go to the website, they're available under the Chartership guidance. Obviously, if you search CIWEM on YouTube, you will be able to watch them as well there directly.
Fantastic. And yes, if you have any questions, then do email us at membership@ciwem.org. We always answer every single email that we receive. So if in doubt, if you have any questions, then do please drop us an email. As I've mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, so you can always rewatch it. You know, if you feel like you haven't quite caught everything. But yeah, unless there are any final questions from the audience, I will say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today. I hope you have found this instructive. Thank you for Sid as well for taking the time to talk us through some fantastic tips.
Thank you for being here.
for Chartership. And yes, with that, I think I will say goodbye to everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, take care.